April's office hours for ESEA.
Great. I'll get right into it. The 15% carryover rule. I know we went over this last month, but it's just very important. So make sure your ears are nice and open. And if you have over 50,000 in Title I, you are paying attention to this rule. So what is this rule? The SAU can only keep up to 15% of their Title I funds unless they're given a waiver by the state of Maine. This is on the Title I-A waiver page that you'll see on your performance report. The state of Maine can only give this waiver every 3 years. So a lot of you have taken this waiver in the past. So you'll want to pay attention to this and make sure you're spending down your current year funds if you have taken that waiver. Yeah, like it says in the slide, so we've gotten waivers from the U.S. Department of Education the last 3 years to be able to give you a waiver to be able to carry over all of your Title I funds, even if you've gotten a waiver in the past from the state of Maine. But now we will no longer be able to do that unless we did apply for another tidings / 15% waiver from the feds, but we are not counting on it. So yes, pay attention to this rule. Next slide. How do you pay attention? Here's an example of what that page looks like in your performance report. So again, this applies to fiscal year 23, 24, 25. If you've accepted a waiver in those years, you would not be eligible for one until 3 years later. So for example, if you took a waiver from the state to waive that 15% carryover rule for Title I in FY23, then you wouldn't be eligible again until FY26. If you took a waiver in FY24, this last performance report, then you wouldn't be eligible for a waiver until FY27. Again, you can see this on that Title I excess carryover waiver page. You can see here the allocation, which again takes in transfers, was 171,000. So this rule applies to them. They're above that 50,000 threshold. They carried over 77%, so they wouldn't be eligible for a waiver until FY27. So that's how you analyze that page. You can see right on the right-hand side, yes, they accepted the waiver. It was approved. So just be paying attention to this rule if you have taken this waiver in the past.
So just a couple things to keep in mind in regards to the FY25 ESEA winter monitoring cycle. As you folks know, it was opened at the beginning of the new year and all submissions were due middle of February. Our team has reviewed all of those submissions and provided feedback in the consultant checklist. In the monitoring tool instrument at the bottom of the Grants for Me platform. And we want to be sure that we're drawing your attention to the fact that there was some revisions that were needed with a submission deadline of April 7th of 2025. Again, we have some resources on our website should you need some support in completing those items. And Rita, before we jump into the next slide, I'm just going to reload for just a moment. Thank you.
Can I ask a question while Shelley is pulling up? Just when it appears there's no way to hit like submit on your revision for monitoring. Is that, I just want to confirm that that's right. I looked for a long time yesterday to try and hit submit. So you all are just notified or you go in and check past the date.
Yep, that's accurate. We can just search and see who's submitted their items. There's not any back and forth with changing the status unless for some reason there's like more feedback we need to give.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great. So just as a reminder, sort of we like to prompt the year at a glance kind of activities that SAUs should be considering in month to month. And most Aprils and Mays, we remind folks about annual CNA updates as like the bread and butter of ESEA funding, right? You should be meeting with stakeholders to update your SAU level and your school level plans, your comprehensive needs assessment at the district level, and then school-wide plans for school-wide programs. You want to be sure to document your high needs, your data sources used. Obviously, right, it's helpful in the narratives to have what data you're using to assess trends, assess gaps or opportunity or achievement gaps in your student subgroups, and considering what that means for how to use your supplemental ESEA funding. It's very important to have a variety of stakeholders, and those are outlined in statute, right, including parents, school board, and those are outlined in the CNA template we have. And then, of course, it's a good idea always to really take good notes of those meetings, when you meet, what you discuss, because the more obvious the CNA process is, the more rooted in the application, the more we understand why you're paying for what you're paying for, and the easier that flow becomes. So I got an email, a very timely email from one of my SAUs yesterday about sort of what should we be doing right now. And so I really want to take a moment to remind folks to look at your CNAs. Even if you look at them earlier in the year, I think it's a wise thing to do to look at towards the end of the year, see if there have been any movement, any of those goals have been met in order to create new goals. Because I see April's question in the chat as I was reading. Just an update on Title I summer. This year, the application was due last Monday, on March 31st. I will not be reviewing late applications. They had to be in LEA authorized rep status prior to the deadline. We are reviewing them and calculating for ranking and priority for the first time in a couple of years because we don't have enough funding for all that was requested. The priority will be given, just as a reminder for those that maybe didn't attend the training. This is about SAUs that have higher poverty rates, a greater number of tier 3 schools, and less carryover funding available. And those become points, and we will rank order them in points and award until we don't have the funds from our reallocated pot. I'm really hoping to be done with this process by the time kind of April break, early May, because that obligation date for those districts, you can be able to begin obligating May 1st. Thank you to all who applied. And yes, it's I wish we could fund them all, but we will not be able to. The other announcement I just wanted to make is a reminder for folks, especially probably SAUs that have maybe a population of homeless students that's been increasing, or their needs have been increasing. Signe, Lynch, and I are going to just do a co-training on April 17th. It's in the PD calendar. Specifically, I will be talking about how to leverage Title I set-asides. And I think we'll kind of dabble in a bit of allowability for all 3 grants so that you could blend and braid if you happen to be a receiver of the McKinney-Vento funds or preventing student homelessness funds. That way you can kind of see, all right, well, Title I can pay for this, I can't pay for that, and be able to service those students, those most vulnerable students that you have in your schools with some combination of the funds that you may receive.
So again, we are hitting the road, and we are going to you to provide you with regional training. So we have a southern, northern, and central location, and the dates have been confirmed. We want to share with you that our registration link will be available at the end of today. We will send a notice through Grants for Me so that you have it readily available in all of your emails and have the ability to register. But we wanted to be sure you had this information handy on this one slide, but also to think about who should be involved in the regional training. So it really is designed for ESEA coordinators and business office personnel. However, it is at the discretion of the SAU to determine if there are other members of their team who help in the development of the following year's ESEA application, or in the program goals, or the development of the needs assessment. So there's really a lot of components that go into the work that we do. We understand that is also true at the local level. So again, we will highlight title program requirements. We will incorporate some new coordinator information. Of course, we will have a financial corner where we talk about all things related to money. We will also highlight a few things in regards to application changes and the UGG changes. So again, a wonderful opportunity for all of you to come together and engage in the conversation, but also our team be available for optional training at the end of the day related to Grants for Me platform and or specific questions for our RPMs or our title specialists. The other item that I wanted to share with you folks today, which is not directly related to ESEA, but you folks are a captive audience who work in federal funds and know in regards to the reporting cycles of all of our federal funds have different timelines. I'm drawing your attention to the ESER, the Emergency Relief Funds. As you know, that team has dissolved and is no longer with the department. However, that work continues, and that request from the U.S. Department of Ed for a performance report is timely in regards to where we are currently in our fiscal year. So the U.S. Department of Ed is asking for all of FY24. What we did in this performance report, this ESER performance report, which is due May 5th of this year, what it does is it incorporates FY24 and FY25, because as you folks know, the end of the liquidation period for our SAUs was December 30th. So you have already closed out all of that funding, and we don't want to have to reach out to you again in a year to collect this information. So we're trying to do it in this one, hopefully, last ESER performance report. We will be hosting an office hour on April 15th at 1 p.m. and I will work on getting the links into the chat box momentarily once I stop sharing my screen, or if a team member, thank you so much, there's a team member popping those in, which is great. This ESER performance report will not be in Grants for Me. It will be in GEMS, which is the platform that housed all the information associated with ESER and the Emergency Relief Fund. It should be available this morning, but I'm seeing a note in the chat box that it may not be showing up in GEMS currently. I'm going to follow up, but it should be live here momentarily.
Oh, good morning, everyone. May is coming before we know it, and our quarterly federal fiscal office hour will be held on May 1st at 10 a.m. I will pop the registration link in the chat, and you can go and register. We will have representatives from all federal programs on hand to answer any of your federal fiscal questions. We do have an agenda. We are also excited to announce we will be hosting a fiscal boot camp during the 2025 Educator Summit as well. And more information on the Educator Summit will be coming forth. Next slide. Fiscal communications. I am still receiving emails requesting information about payment or the inability to submit an invoice, but all I get is my Title II invoice for August. It's not identified by the fiscal year. Most districts have at least 2 grant years open, possibly 3. It makes it much easier for me to go and identify which invoice you're talking about if you include the fiscal year in the subject line. Next. ESEA funds that are ending 9/30/25. This is currently the status. So your FY 23 funds are definitely ending. FY24 is pending a tidings amendment waiver, but I would not count on that, as just said, alluded to earlier. And as of April 4th, there was approximately $800,000 still available in FY23 funds and about 3.9 million in FY24. So let's get invoicing and let's draw down these funds before they're no longer available. Invoicing reminders as we're getting closer to the end of this fiscal year, and we will have SAUs that accrue their salaries that were earned during this school year. Please keep in mind that you will not be able to seek reimbursement for those accrued salaries with new funds, meaning your FY26 funds. Also, there is an invoicing requirement to invoice monthly if you receive greater than 250,000. That is per title. So if you receive 255,000 in Title I, that is monthly. If you're the same SAU and you receive 75,000 in Title II, that allows you to invoice quarterly. I just wanted to make that very clear. Also, and when you are invoicing, the service period needs to match your trial balance. So if you're invoicing for expenses 10/1/24 to 12/30/24, that date range needs to appear on your detailed trial balance. And the backup documentation should only be for those expenses that you are requesting reimbursement for. Backup documentation. We need to see backup documentation for tuition reimbursement, professional development, and travel. Required to verify the dates of completion. We cannot reimburse for future professional development opportunities or future travel. So that is why we request backup documentation for those expenses. The professional service, contractual services, or tuition, it should be a vendor invoice. We should not be reimbursing per a tuition reimbursement voucher, which is an internal document. Do not submit your trial balances or your general ledgers in an Excel form. I will not accept editable forms. That is a high risk for fraud. So please make sure you're converting those to a PDF before uploading. Next. First in, first out. We have been preaching for years, use your oldest funds first. Some people are under the impression that they cannot invoice for New Year funds before drawing down all their old funds. And this is particularly challenging to get below your 15% carryover for Title I if that applies to your SAU. So by all means, start using your FY24 and FY25 money immediately. Start drawing those funds down. If you have any questions whatsoever about the process or how we can get caught up to date on your invoicing, please reach out to me individually and we can work together to be successful. Thank you.
So during these office hours, I know that we share information about the professional learning directly associated with our team, but there is professional learning that transpires throughout the department. We always encourage you to visit the professional development calendar, which highlights data, assessment, office of students and support. So all of the offices across the department do put their information on the professional development calendar. We'll leave you with our contact information before opening it up for questions.